What's up, Oculus nerds? Dan from Playtest VR here. Welcome back to Let's Talk Oculus episode 101. Now, normally you would see me and Samson right here and we'll go through what we've been playing and such, but in fact, we had a guest on today's show. We've got Mike from LiveOpenMike. We were meant to have him as the second half of the show, but we kept talking and talking. We went through some really good topics, talking about the Quest 3, talking about the state of the Quest 2 and how that was. We also spoke about how to make the Quest more streamer friendly and such, as well as Mike's job in community management with £3 Games, as well as his live streaming and his actual YouTube channel as well. So it's a good 1.5 hour conversation. So without further ado, let's talk Oculus. Let's Talk Oculus, a VR podcast, is proudly sponsored by the good folks at Patreon. If you want to support the show, join us on patreon.com/Let's Talk Oculus. We are joined by none other than VR content creator and community manager at £3 Games. It's Mike at LiveOpenMike. Mike, welcome to the show. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. A little nervous, so just breathing through it. But yeah, I'm excited.
That's amazing. Don't worry, we will take you through the whole podcast journey. So what we'll do is we'll discuss your obviously journey in VR and where like content creation and live streaming and community management came in. But actually, let's start with that. Let's start with the beginnings and such. When was the first time that you discovered or just tried out VR and kind of fell in love with it?
It was at a bowling alley. It was one of those cheap. It was a really old Vive headset. I couldn't tell you what it was now because I don't remember exactly what it looked like. It was one of those ones where you put on a headset and then you box somebody. And I got my ass kicked 3 times, but I fell in love with it. So every time my family and I went there with friends, I ran right to the VR headset one, and I would just line up and play that over and over again. Then I started taking.
Were you all there to bowl, or were you there just to go to the VR?
I'm a bad bowler, so I would bowl, and then in between I would just run over and do bowling matches because there'd be like 6 or 7 of us there.
Gotcha.
And then when I met my what then became my wife, I took my then teenage stepdaughter to VR arcades, and we would play around in like Solaris. This is around 2020 at this point, just for the around like 2019, 2020. So, and we played stuff like Solaris and Arizona Sunshine and whatever other like cheap games that this arcade could get, and we fell in love with it. We spent like hours there. It was a lot of fun. And then when the pandemic hit and all of a sudden most of those places were closed down, it was my 40th birthday, 2021, and I was randomly in the GameStop looking for a cheap deal to get, and I saw the Quest and said, and that's when I'd already done research on how much all that stuff costs, and I said, okay, I'm not paying $1,000 for an index. I don't have a high-end computer, so that's like a $2,000 barrier of entry. So I'll just keep going to arcades. COVID hits, I can't do that anymore. And I saw the Quest and said, screw it, I've got the money. Let's go ahead and do it. And the rest is history.
Nice. So the first Quest was the one that you got, which obviously you must have got it.
Quest 2. Sorry, Quest 2.
Oh, Quest 2. Okay, that makes sense. I was about to say, I was like, did you get burned? Did you buy the Quest 1 and then a couple months later the Quest 2? Okay, I'm glad.
What was the first game you got?
The first one I bought was Beat Saber, obviously, because the guy who sold it to me at GameStop said, you must play this game. It's the only one I play. So I played funny because... Yeah, go ahead.
Just back in the day when I bought a PlayStation 2, the guy at GameStop, I'm a huge Crash Bandicoot fan, so I was buying the new Crash Bandicoot, but it was not getting good reviews. And the guy at GameStop was like, you don't want this. You want Jak and Daxter. And I was like, no, I want this. He's like, you don't want this. It's not as good. I was like, no, right. I want Crash Bandicoot. And I demanded it, and I got it, and I loved it, even though it had really, really long load times.
That's bad.
Did you ever play Jak and Daxter at any point?
No, I never did.
Wow.
That's a good. Wow. It's a good series.
It's
Jak
highly regarded. Yeah,
I would recommend it for someone who who likes Crash. I understand what the GameStop person was saying. Like it made a lot of sense. Jak and Daxter is a really good franchise, especially on the PS2. It blew up back then. So get on that. Get on your Steam Deck. I'm sure you
bring it back into PSVR.
Yeah, maybe.
No chance. No chance. Funny how he's doing that.
It's funny how you say Beat Saber, because I remember when I got my Quest 2 at launch, I tried not to buy Beat Saber because everyone was playing it and such, and I was like, I'm gonna see if I can try other games first. And I got the demo of Beat Saber, and I was like, okay, I still don't. It's never understood it, because I remember when you're watching content creation, we kind of get through that in a moment. But when you're watching like YouTube and such, sometimes it just doesn't give you like exactly what the game is like. You don't really know what the experience
100%.
is like. Like when I remember watching Beat Saber videos, and I was like, I don't get this. This seems like just seems like a Guitar Hero game and such. And then when I finally played it, I was like, oh, I understand. And I used to play it literally every night at the early Quest games. It was one of those. It was one of those. But do you still play Beat Saber?
A lot of VR games are like that. A lot of VR games are like that. Do I still play Beat Saber? Yes, not nearly as much. Walkabout is kind of taking over that. I need to hop into a game real quick and just play a little bit of VR. Walkabout's now that game.
We got to get you in our
things like that.
We got to get you in some of our play sessions. You know, we play Walkabout quite often in the Discord. We'll have to get you in.
Samson has seen me play, so I need Samson to kind of Samson to see me play on stream. So he'll look at me like, yeah, we don't need this guy to play.
I guided him through what you all were playing the Journey. Yeah.
Fair enough.
I'm not good. I'm not good. I'll laugh. It'll be fun, but I'm not good. Let's just say
that's fine. That's fine. Do you have like any favorite courses from Walkabout, or any things that stick out?
I think Atlantis is tremendous. I think that's the best one they've done. And I played all but like two of them. I didn't play. Christ, I just played Shangri-La. No, I played them all now because I just played Shangri-La a couple of weeks ago. Nice. I think Atlantis is absolutely stunning. Like just the design of it, the music, the vibe, everything. Like every single hole is really unique. All the creatures floating around. I think that one's amazing. Aside from that, because of my kid, I like the candy one because she just loves going around and looking like the giant gummy bears. Yeah, and all the ice cream and the cake and all this stuff. She loves that one. So if we ever play, because she lives in North Carolina, I live in Georgia. So I bought her Quest 2 for her birthday. So we will get together and play Walkabout every now and then. And whenever we do that, like that's the one that she likes. So that's a personal answer, obviously.
Yeah, for sure. That's fun. No, that's really nice. Is she how old is she? Is she
she just turned 11, so she's big in Gorilla Tag and all those games that I don't want to play. So
yeah.
So someone told me the other day, they were like, I saw you on Gorilla Tag. Like that was my daughter. She's just using her name's tied to my account specifically, I can like monitor her activity and stuff like that. This is before Meta came up with the new parent account, so now I'm working to migrate her to one of those.
Fair enough.
But yeah, she plays all the kid games that everyone complains has too many kids. She's one of those kids in there. She Rec Room, all those.
What's it been like to kind of monitor as a parent? Because obviously, as you probably know, with a lot of online VR titles, say going into Population 1 can be very problematic due to just people, on the mics and such. But have you been okay to monitor that? Has everything been all right? Or
so she played a lot of Roblox on her. She played a lot of Roblox on her phone and did a lot of voice chat stuff there. So we very early on established the rules of interacting online. So when she started using my Quest, she would always had to be in a room with me. She wasn't allowed to wear headphones. That was a starting rule. And then as she just learned, and I would just hear her quit lobbies immediately if someone was like using racial slurs or any kind of bad language. She's very well trained in that. And she doesn't really like having swearing around her, any of that negativity. So she doesn't like toxicity or anything like that. So she'll just exit out and go find something else to do. She plays a lot of Vacation Simulator, Job Simulator now too. So she'll play the single player stuff where she's left alone. Nice. I'm very fortunate, and I know not every parent situation is like that. I'm very fortunate that she understands and knows what to stay away from now. She'll slip up every now and then because she's a kid and she's going to, but the monitoring has been a lot easier than I anticipated. I'm very thankful for that.
Is she creating content?
No. She does TikTok stuff, but it's her like dancing in her room. She asked me about doing some VR stuff because the reason she got on Job Simulator is because it's massive on TikTok. It's one of the biggest games you can find on TikTok. That's part of that game's success.
That's so sweet.
And that's how she heard about Gorilla Tag and begged me to download it. And I said, okay. But no, she doesn't want to do content with it because she's seen me do enough of it and sit down and take the headset off and look at something and check. Like she's watched me do that live. She's like,
She knows the work
that looks
behind
too.
it.
Yeah, that looks too hard. No thanks. I'll just set up my phone and dance. I'm good.
Yeah, it's not as easy as that at the moment to do content creation.
Yeah, they brought back the Facebook live streaming though.
But Facebook gaming's
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
But
who's on
gaming,
that?
though. Exactly.
I was about to say. Who's on that?
I don't know. I'll tell you. Because I did have a group back in the day. I would do it to I was trying to get any of my Facebook friends to notice me, notice VR. But I'd made it a private group, so I deleted it. I created a new one. Now that this is back, I streamed Breachers on Friday night. I've gained 1 follower, I think.
Facebook
somebody
shut
did.
Off their. Good.
Somebody did ask. They commented "Hey, when's your first stream?" And then I got back to them. They didn't watch, but they did inquire.
They Facebook already cut off their partnership. Their partnership program for gamers now. Facebook gaming is just dead. It hasn't been doing great for a while. It was just really a bunch of FPS streamers and stuff like that. But now they cut off the partnership monetization program. There's almost no incentive to stream there.
Yeah, that's fair. That
makes sense.
That's fair. I wanted to ask actually because this might be jumping way far ahead, but with obviously you got YouTube, your content creation, and then you also live streaming on Twitch. Was there a reason why you went live streaming on Twitch, not to YouTube where the rest of the audience is, or did you just want to keep those kind of separate?
Well, I started on Twitch first, so there's a comfort level there. And then my YouTube success has been recent. I had 100 followers when the year started. So all this stuff happened in the last few months. But
where are you at now?
1,700 something, I think. 1,762, something like that.
That's great after a few months, it's been, this year. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's been crazy. I'm very thankful for that. But so the live streaming experience is much different on YouTube than it is on Twitch in a bunch of different ways. From the viewer side, just the engagement part's a little bit weird. There's a bigger lag on chat, which is bizarre to me because YouTube has better servers. You get better transcoding. So if you want to stream 4K, you could do that on YouTube. On Twitch, that's not a good idea to do. But so Twitch, you can be a bit more loose with your format. I do a lot of React content. Sam's has been there where I'll just pull up a YouTube video I found interesting and we'll just sit there and watch it and laugh at it usually. I could just sit here and have a conversation like this. Whereas on YouTube, because everything you're up against everyone's very slickly produced, stylized, effects laden video. And something like this doesn't really work on YouTube all that well. They normally say, hey, why don't you just get to the game? Most YouTube streams that I've seen, you already have the headset on. You just go, hey guys, thanks for tuning in the stream, and you get right into the game, and that's it. Whereas mine is it's kind of like a hangout, and I'm going to play a VR game at some point, and that just doesn't work as well on YouTube functionally as it does on Twitch.
I prefer the hangout bit. It's more like a podcast.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. Like that. I think live streaming in general, and I think people don't sell enough of the fun in VR. Because they're all about the specs and this and that. And that headset does have local dimming. This one does have eye tracking. There's so much argument over all the technical aspects of it that your casual consumer doesn't care about that. Is it fun? Am I going to enjoy myself? Yeah. Because that's what's going to get them to spend hundreds or thousands of dollars. Not the fact that it's got pancake lenses versus Fresnel and all that stuff. All that stuff matters once you get into the ecosystem and you understand it better. But your average limit doesn't care about that. They just want to have fun.
Yeah. Yeah,
so that was a long-winded answer, but yeah, it's just two different live streaming experiences. So I like Twitch better, so I stayed there.
That's fair. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, because it's an interesting one. Because a lot of people kind of go back and forth and do it on both, and then I'm not sure and such. So that's good. That's a good insight.
Without Twitch, we wouldn't be able to troll you with "Hi, I'm new here."
I almost started this podcast. I'll explain that in a second, Dan. I almost started this podcast with "Hi everyone, I'm new to the podcast." That was going to be the first thing I said, but no one was going to understand that.
Yeah, I forgot about it. I meant to do it earlier.
Please explain.
So he's got you go for it, Mike. Go for it.
Okay, so I have a channel point redeem in my channel, and it says, "Hi everyone, I'm new here," and it's supposed to be used for new people who either are lurking or don't want to speak yet to just say, "Hi everyone, I'm here," and it's a sound that says, "Hi everyone, I'm new to the stream." I can't remember who co-opted it first, But my regulars started using it. And then it became a thing. And now it's a thing in the channel that anyone who comes in at any point just spams, "Hi, everyone, I'm new to the stream." So even when I get rated now, if I get rated with like 50 people, whoever rated me knows that joke. So they'll tell everyone who rated to redeem that. So I'll just get like 50 of those spammed in a row, and I'll just talk and then, "Hi, everyone, I'm new to the stream." So I have to pause and let that one play. I tell everyone to kick rocks. There's sounders I play for it. I'm like, "You're not new here." It's a whole thing.
So that audio plays over the stream when they say that. That's fun. I guess you can't. I don't think 100%. You can do that in YouTube, right? You can't have that kind of control, or can you?
You can do redeems using commands, but they're not like plainly laid out right there. Like in Twitch, there's a little icon that you click on that just says channel point redeems, and they're right there for everyone to select from.
And as you watch, you accrue more points or whatever.
Correct. Yeah. And YouTube doesn't really have that. You have to do that third party through something like Stream Elements or Streamlabs. That was one of the deterrents I had was I'm going to lose all my channel points. Mm-hmm. And those things are a part of the show. I have, I think, 21 of those in there now. And they're all meant to troll me. Pretty much all of them are meant to troll me. But it's fun for the audience to engage with and for me to react to, because I've just played a straight man, just roll my eyes and react. I'm like the old grandpa, and there's a bunch of kids running around just poking me with sticks. That's what my streams are like. And you can't really do that on YouTube, not to the extent that I do it.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair. That's good to know. So what came first? Mm-hmm. Well, obviously the Quest 2 came first, but like did content creation come like much quicker, like in the journey, or when did you kind of start that?
Sure. So I have a friend who is not a VR streamer. His name is Shinigami Sensei. I've known him in real life for almost 10 years now. He used to work for me when I was a restaurant manager, and that's how I met him and his wife. Mm-hmm. Well, he was streaming on Twitch. He's been on Twitch for almost 6 years now. So I started out watching him and thinking, well, if this chucklehead can do it, I'm sure I can do it. So I was starting to look at like options for streaming. I'm a big Nintendo guy. So I was like, all right, I'll just, stream some Switch games. No problem. And then I got the Quest and I looked around for the VR streamers, and there weren't a ton of them that I could find that weren't doing like Beat Saber or VR chat. To this day, that's still the case. Yeah. I was like, this technology's dope. These games are dope. Like, not enough people are talking about them. I can't find anyone who's doing it, at least on the live streaming format. There were tons of YouTubers, obviously, but if there's a live, no one was doing that. So I said, screw it, I'll do it. So I got my Quest in April 2021. It was actually the weekend of my 40th birthday. I started streaming that September, and I spent the 5 months in between doing a stupid amount of research, watching every YouTube video I could learn about how to set up a stream, like all the technical aspects of it, ways to grow your stream. Most of that advice is outdated now. And a lot of that stuff, because I am a serial over-preparer. I'm very type A, so I don't go into anything just half-baked. So by the time I started streaming...
I'm like the complete opposite.
Well, the funny thing is, I did all that research, and I started, and I still didn't know what the hell I was doing, because live troubleshooting is it's a bitch. Yeah. And it sucks. I had audio issues that I wasn't anticipating. To this day, like, I still had to troubleshoot almost every game I play before I started for the first time. There's like leveling to figure out.
You make it pretty smooth.
Yeah.
There's a lot of anxiety that happens behind the scenes, so you guys think it's smooth, but it's really me just going, shit, this doesn't work. Shit, this doesn't work. Shit, this doesn't work. That's why I have a break screen. Yeah, so I do all that stuff on the break screen. I was
gonna say, I guess you play the clips. Yeah,
that's fair. That's a good idea. Is it? I know, obviously, streaming from Switch to Twitch, just a weird way to say it, but streaming from Nintendo to Twitch is much easier, I guess, than VR. How's the VR streaming part? Is that become so like a lot of headaches, especially at the start, or how did that one go?
Yeah.
How do you do it?
Okay, so if you're on the Quest, there's two different ways to do it. If you have a Google Chromecast, you can use a capture card the same way every console streamer does it. You plug your Chromecast into the capture card, and then you can stream your Quest to the Chromecast, and you just pull the Chromecast feed into Streamlabs, OBS, whatever you're using. That's pretty straightforward. The other way to do it is there's a browser cast. So you can go to oculus.com/casting. And when you go to the casting setup in your headset, it'll say web browser. You click on that, and it'll just feed the video and audio to this web browser. A lot of people don't know that it feeds like it feeds a square image. It's 1024 by 1024. You can set the widescreen, but then it crops like the top 21 and bottom 21% of the video.
So the Chromecast doesn't do that?
The Chromecast does that, but the cropping's less extreme. I think it's like 16 or 16% on both ends. So the Chromecast gives you a better feed, but it's a Chromecast and it's not as stable, because now you're relying on your computer's internet connection, the Chromecast internet connection, and your Quest
That's a
internet
whole
connection.
extra.
All And if any one of those three glitches at any point, if they blip, your feed drops. So I generally use browser just because I was cutting out the middleman. And then with PCVR, that's a little bit easier because your PC is actually running the game and just streaming it to your headset. So you just put your feed on a separate monitor and just do a display capture for that. The challenging thing is chat. Chat is very, very hard to keep up with in VR. And I've seen people make it look really easy. On Quest Native, you can't see chat in headset. So most people use text-to-speech. Text-to-speech works if you have a small audience. It doesn't work the second you get over like a dozen viewers because it talks like this and it talks so slow that if your chat is moving quickly, you cannot keep up with the chat. So I am responding to things that happened 10 minutes ago. Meanwhile, my chat has already moved on to the next thing they're trolling me on. And it got annoying. So I'll show you what I do.
Yeah, we want some behind the scenes.
Someone called this. Someone called this genius. I did a whole video about this, but it was like a year ago and it's shitty.
You just carry your phone and look through the nose hole?
Yeah, so exactly. This is a runner's arm strap, and I just strap it to the inside of my forearm like this, and I look through the nose hole in the bottom of the Quest. So I literally just do this every few seconds, glance it real quick, read it, and keep it moving. And it's so seamless that people don't realize I'm doing it unless I point it out.
That's cool.
And then
PCVR, are you just using like OVR toolkit or something?
You either use OVR or half the time I just pin the window just because it's easier. Rather than have to flip my wrist up and look down all the time, I just pin the window somewhere and it's just a location I can just glance at and keep moving.
Fair. I like that. That's a clever idea. It's like you have a watch on your wrist in a way that just give you all of the comments and such, which is great. That's a great idea. It's either that or I guess the other way is to get another person to watch your stream and just like make comments on it.
I tried that one time. Yeah. I tried that with my then wife where we were sitting on the call and I was wearing two sets of headphones. So I would have like these on and then have these on. And then on the earbuds, she was just feeding me what chat said. And then she would get distracted when the kids would come in the room, the cat or the dog would come in the room, or she missed something, or her not understanding content doesn't understand like what's important to tell me and what's not. Like she would read the ones that would say, Samson redeemed, I'm new here. I'm like, I don't need to hear that.
Like, no.
She would just troll you. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was the other thing is you're at the mercy of that person. So if she's ganking in on the trolling, then it's not as informational. Like you need someone who's going to be, a robot basically in there. So that didn't work. That didn't last too long. And then we eventually got to this solution, the phone solution. It works great.
Oh man, yeah, because I've heard stuff from Gamertag. We had him on the podcast maybe 50 episodes ago now, but I remember talking to him about it, and he said, yeah, it's just it's just not easy. It's not like you're on your PlayStation and you just go, okay, I'm going to stream, you're good to go. It's like there's so many more moving parts involved. And yeah, right. The chat, Samson, can you remember the game? And we had the guest on, I can't remember who it was, but there was a game that's come out on either on App Rogue Ascent, right? Where they had the chat in game.
Twitch integration.
Yeah, which is amazing. It's like that should be kind of I hope yes. We're gonna get to that now in a sec. I wish that with the Quest 3 or Meta kind of acknowledges how important streaming is, especially for VR, because there is so few, as you mentioned. And I hope that they, if soon as they implement some sort of like standard toolkit inside of the Quest, then you're gonna see loads of people doing it because it becomes much more easier.
They're close. Like they just launched in, I want to say it was V52, the ability to multi-app basically. Before it was like a hard line. You could only have one app open at a time. And they started expanding that a little bit more. So they're starting to get to more robust usage. I think Quest Pro taught them that they needed that to be able to do the productivity stuff. So it's close, but to the point where you can pin a Windows side of the headset, honestly, I don't think that chipset was going to be able to handle it. So hopefully Quest 3 can, and they can implement it later.
Absolutely. Well, let's kind of talk about the what you have on your t-shirt. Okay. That is your... Sure. You've got like 3 avenues. You've got your live, you've got your content creation via through YouTube, and then you got your community manager. I would say that's the 3 pillars of LiveOpenMike right there. Let's talk about the community manager first. A community manager of £3 games. When did that begin? Was that kind of early on, or was that something that's just occurred recently?
I've been there for a year now. I got hired last June.
Nice.
And
nice. And what does the community manager kind of entail?
So you wear a bunch of different hats, or at least I do. Maybe this is different for each person, but at least in my role, so I run all the social media accounts. There's nothing that gets posted on any of those that I didn't see first or I didn't write myself. I spend a lot of time in like Reddits and Facebook groups, just interacting either as myself because Robin Muller, the CEO of the company, really wanted, our two brands to one stay separate but still grow together. So like as LiveOpenMike grows, 3 Pound will come up and 3 Pound explodes, and LiveOpenMike will get the rub too. So I interact as 3 Pound and as myself, either like respond to like troubleshooting questions or, hey, what are some good games to play? And I kind of slip Space Dragon in there. Basically just making myself known in the community in general. I spend a lot of time in Discords. I'm in an obscene amount of Discords, like the Rough Talk one. That's where I met Sam. Actually, no, we met on Twitter, but that's where we actually like started speaking, was in the Rough Talk one. So there's a lot of time spent in Discords. I set up events. I talk to different there's a bunch of different like metaverse or like social apps that I've done like demos for, because we looked at doing live events in those and getting people in to play the game. There's a bunch of different things. I make media, so I make like clips and like highlight packages, things like that to kind of sell the game. It's also very hard. It's very hard because you're trying to get the word out about a game that not a lot of people know about. And since it's VR, the best way you're going to sell the game is to get someone in the headset to do it. So one, finding the people who have Quest, and then two, or PCVR, because the PCVR version of it is from 2017. And one, finding someone who has a headset, and two, enticing them to try the game and hopefully enjoy it, because word of mouth is going to be your best advertising. No amount of advertising I can do is going to be better than someone saying this game is dope and telling 10 people. So just trying to get as many people to play the game as possible. That's basically my job. And I do some testing and some other stuff on the side, like when I have time for it.
Fair enough. And then obviously with 3 Pound, I see, as I was doing my research for this show, you've got, well, let's talk about Space Dragon first. That's the t-shirt that you're wearing. I remember this coming out actually, because I think we mentioned it on the podcast, because I was like, what the hell is this? You've got dragons as your fists,
as your hands. Yes, your hands are dragons.
As your arms.
Our designer likes turning your hands into other things. The game we're working on now, your hands get turned into like 3 different things throughout the course of the game.
That's really cool. So let's talk about Space Dragon.
What's that?
Yeah.
Like what the bat?
No, I don't want that comparison. I don't want that comparison. I did not like that game.
That's fair. So let's talk about Space Dragon. Like,
sure.
For people who don't really know about it, what kind of game is it? Where is it available and such?
So Space Dragon, one was 3 Pound's first game on PCVR back in 2017. It was ported to Quest last November 2022. It's basically a bullet hell space arcade shooter. So one of the guys who reviewed it, Ironbug VR, compared it to Contra, where there's just bullets flying at you pretty much the entire game. You play as 2 hatchling space dragons who are trying to rescue a big, gigantic golden dragon who's kind of like the head of the dragon family. So you escape from your confines from an evil AI core, which is kind of timely at this point. So you escape from the confines, the golden dragon gets captured, and then you're spending the rest of the game chasing down that golden dragon through every level that you play. And it's just that's the basic core loop of the game. So you play through different levels. You have to, so the AI have captured all or encapsulating all these planets and using them to fuel these solar containers, because they're also, in addition to the dragons, are collecting other gigantic creatures called galactic megafauna, and keeping them captive too. So your job is, in each mission, is to free one of them. So you have to free the planet itself and then blow it up so they can't siphon up any more energy off of it. It's actually very satisfying blowing up planets. And then you have to either free or kill the galactic megafauna, depending on how much of a sadist you are in the game. I kill every single one of them every single time. I think I've saved them like once.
No mercy
whatsoever. And then towards the end of the game, you fight the AI core and you go to free the golden dragon. So it's fun, and that's the main thing. Is that's why I like the game, because I do like I played a lot of JRPGs when I was growing up. Final Fantasy 3 is one of my favorite games ever. So is Chrono Trigger, Dragon Warrior, all those. I like all those games fine, but I also like a game where I can just put something on and just go shoot something. And that's the fun of Space Dragon.
How long's each level?
It depends how good you are. So when the game first came out, the game came out in 2017. And think about where VR was in 2017. A lot of the games were fairly short. So Space Dragon is not a long game. I think the longest I've seen someone take to beat it is start to finish is maybe a couple of hours. And they just weren't very good. Or they got stuck on the boss fight and kind of need some tips to get through it. But when we first launched the game, we did a speed run contest because we kind of just played into it. Like Synapse, Injury's doing that now with Synapse because Synapse is a very short game too. And just playing into let's see how fast you can get through this. And the winners got some merch out of it. I think the record was a guy named Brady Lidziger, who's a friend of mine. I think he beat it in 13 minutes.
Holy wow.
But he grinded a lot to get down to 13 minutes. Like he played.
I saw a lot of speed runs. Like people post speed runs for that game, and it's pretty impressive. 13 minutes.
They're ridiculous. They're ridiculous.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of Yuki, where that kind of bullet hell where you're controlling the little character guy.
It's fun. Yeah. It must be really fun just to see obviously you joined a year ago, but just to see the progression and see how it's doing and seeing all the updates kind of coming up and just kind of seeing that kind of world, because obviously you as a consumer or content creator, you see one side, but kind of see more behind the scenes of how much effort and what goes into actually making a game. Yeah,
it's an interesting balance to strike because once you learn how the sausage is made, it kind of takes some of the fun out of it. And there are some things that when I play a game now, I'll look at because I speak to developers all day. I'll look at it from a developer perspective where I never would have done that, 2 years ago. And I'll think about audio leveling. Robin, the CEO of the company, has an extensive music background. So she's also the sound engineer for the company. So she cares deeply about audio levels and the right sound at the right time and things like that. So I am very, very sensitive to audio issues when I'm playing games now. Or like if the voice acting is different than the game music, things like that. But Robin was also very protective of, and she and Lauren and everyone else at the company were very great about making sure that I am LiveOpenMike, that stuff is still protected because that's how they met me and that's how they got to know me and that's what they liked me for. So I'm not in meetings where there are insensitive things being talked about. Like I've been in anything Quest related. I've not been in a single one of those meetings because they don't want to jeopardize or impugn my integrity when I'm talking on YouTube or Twitch about that sort of thing. But I mean, I'll sit there and watch them do like optimization for Space Dragon. I'll go, this is really time consuming. No wonder some games come out and they're not well optimized because this sucks. This is editing.
All right. So speaking of that, I just random tangent here. There was this game called War of Being just came out on Steam, and it's made by a metal band, I believe. And it's, quote, War Being is a single-player VR sci-fi adventure with standard mode playability based on the music and concept for Tesseract's 2023 full-length album. And I booted into this game, and all of a sudden it's low frames. I'm talking probably 20 to 30 frames I'm getting. I'm like, what is going on? And so I go into the settings and everything's for some reason, I do have a 3080. So it just automatically set everything to epic. I'm like, whoa. I turned everything down to medium and then it finally ran smooth. But I was just thinking, wow, I have a 3080 and this thing it was even still struggling on my medium settings, but it was playable at that point. But yeah, that made me think. I was like, wow, now I respect all the optimization that's done in games a bit more.
Yeah, it's rough, but I think that, 3 years of Quest 2 has taught a lot of developers. They've gotten really good at it and a lot faster at it, but it's still a very time consuming process because you're going through every single inch of that game and looking at your frame rate and looking at your performance and looking at your GPU load and your CPU load. They have diagnostics that are on the screen so they can like monitor their numbers as they're going through it. They'll say, what happens if I go in this corner? What happens if I go in this corner? It's a very time consuming process. And frankly, not everyone has the patience for it or the time to do it. A lot of smaller companies need to get something out there so they need to start generating revenue. So they'll kind of skip on the optimization or they'll play the most direct route through the game, not realizing that there are chuckleheads like me who are going to go look at every nook and cranny and try to find stuff. And that's where we're going to have crashes and bugs and things like that. Like, that testing process is extensive.
The interesting part is when you boot up a game that's done by like a AAA developer or someone that's really well known and it runs like garbage, and it's like, how have you not gone through all this time and such? But I guess it might be just a monetary thing and such, and things can get overlooked. But it's interesting, the VR space. You got a lot of, sometimes the bigger titles don't really live up to the hype sometimes because
Satan Centers Chapter 2.
yeah, exactly.
Oh man,
that's exactly right. That came out, and that was a complete wash when it came out on Quest 2.
I streamed it the night it came out. I hit a bug 5 minutes in. 5 minutes in, I had a disappearing door in the invisible zombie. I was like, what is this?
That's mad, right? It just
brutal.
It happens.
No, I think in that instance, that's an executive saying, put the game out. And I'm sure the developers will love another 6 months to work through all that stuff. That's part of why the PC version got delayed. Mm-hmm. But those decisions aren't always in the hands of the developers. The developers are the designers and the coders. And in bigger companies, you got, people with money signing the checks, making those calls.
That's true. It's definitely more on the publishing. But it's kind of surreal. Like, when I go through some like retro gaming, I'm like, back in those days, they couldn't do a patch. Like, those don't really exist. Mm-hmm. Or if there was a patch, there'll be like N64 will come out with a different version of a cartridge, which will have like a fix to something. Mm-hmm. But it wouldn't be like, oh yeah, you can just download a patch and such. And it's like games, I feel like back then, most of what I remember, maybe that's just me as a kid and just don't remember some of the ones that just didn't work. But I felt like a lot of them just kind of worked, or just had not as much as a game-breaking bugs or anything like that. But I feel like nowadays there's so many more bugs. Like, there seems to be, especially on like flat screens, there's always like a day one patch all the time now and such. So it's interesting to see that. That might just be more of a business sense in terms of the publishers just trying to. These games take much longer now. They take more budget and such, so they just want to get something out, and then it's like, okay, we can fix it.
They know it's digital and they can get something out right away. Like, I'll use another example, Drop Dead the Cabin. It's a solid game now. I actually enjoy playing it now. When they launched it, there were a lot of problems. Frame rate was really bad. The voice chat would drop every now and then, more often than not. And they had a day one patch out, like literally, I think an hour after my video went out. I had they were posting stuff saying, we're gonna put the patch out, we're gonna put the patch out, we're gonna put the patch out. And again, I think that was one of those decisions where that kind of got made above their head, and they had to get the game out and hit a certain deadline, but they knew they were going to have to fix stuff. And it's a blessing and a curse, because you have the ability to fix this stuff, but that means that now your boss can say, go ahead, push it out, just do a patch later. Whereas, like you were saying before with cartridges, I'm sure that discussion wasn't happening.
No, it wasn't happening.
I also feel like in VR, there's this expectation. I could be wrong. It could be in flat gaming too, but that developers keep active with updates and keep really active with updates, like further than just like bug patches, things that come up.
That depends on how well the game is selling. If the game is selling well, you want to keep people retained in it. You add more stuff to it, and you extend the content. If the game is not selling well, you might put out a few bug patches, and you might put out an update to say, hey, we heard you. We heard your feedback. This is what you asked for. We're going to do that. But you only have so many swings at the plate of that before you kind of need to cut bait and say, okay, we're going to work on something else. It's amazing to me that there are games that came out years ago. Walkabout's a great example of that still continually get updates, but that game's insanely popular. They're making a revenue, so they can afford to keep reinvesting into it. Not every game's like that.
Right.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, like, look at Pistol Whip as well. Pistol Whip's been going on for so long, and it just keeps keep putting out more content. Yeah, putting out more and more content all over and over again. Clouded games, but
will come out.
They came out. Wow, yeah, that must have been maybe mid 2019, probably.
Yeah, 2019
when the Quest 1 came out. But that's expanded into something that's like, it's such a good complete game right now. But they just keep going. It's like, oh, now you can make your own levels. It's like, okay, they just keep going.
Once you do the modding, that's you sending the game away. You're like, all right, now we're pretty much done. Community can do the content,
and the community will just carry it on for years and years and years into perpetuity.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's true.
They live for decades through the modders.
That's true. The other game that £3 Games has is Vault of Stars, which has been an early access of the Quest for a while now and such. Right. What's going on with that, if you can talk about it?
So the basics of Vault was made and put out in early access. That's actually how I met them. I reached out to them because I wanted to play their demo. I'm more of a single player guy. I said, this looks really interesting. Let me play it. That's how I met them. That's how I eventually got my job. The short answer with Vault is we wanted to do a multiplayer game, and Vault doesn't really support that. So work on Vault continues behind the scenes. It's also a much larger, more ambitious. That game's going to be hours and hours and hours in terms of like length, and it's all full single player campaign. You both know that those games take a really long time to make. A really long time to make. So the early access was put out to kind of like gauge interest. And then if the interest was like really strong, we would have ran with it. If the interest was pretty decent, but maybe that's when like the port for space tracking came up. And then there was a shift in like the meta, then the meta VR. So when you think about when a game is being developed, by the time you finish putting the game out, if it takes you a year to make something, but at the time that you started it, this is what everyone was playing. A year later, they might be playing something else.
Yeah.
There was a hard shift to multiplayer in the last like year and a half. And that's what a lot of people are gravitating towards. I know Samson would agree with that. A lot of people were gravitating towards the social stuff, the multiplayer stuff, the co-op stuff, things like that.
Yeah.
Vault doesn't have that. So we're still working on the behind the scenes. So between the fact that it takes a really long time to build one massive level of a game that takes you upwards of an hour or so to play all the way through, that's a lot of development. So it's going to be some time before we do the full version of that. So in the meantime, we're working on other projects. Sorry.
Ultimately, you want both, like a good single player option for when you don't have your friends around or whatever, and then a way to play multiplayer.
Yeah, there's a reason games don't have both and do both well in VR. Yeah. It's either one's really good, either the multiplayer is really good and the single player campaign is lacking, or the other way around.
Yeah,
because one of them was we kind of feel like we need this, and the other one was what the main focus of the game was. And I've played countless games like that.
Yeah, you are so right. They are being a multiplayer and single player is now completely two separate games in a way nowadays. It's the same on flat screen as well. You've seen it with like the Call of Duty franchise and such. Like there'll be a whole team that's just on multiplayer, and that's like its own game itself that they could even just ship just like that. And then there's a whole team on single player,
right?
Because if they just have, okay, there's gonna be a single player game, and we're gonna add a multiplayer mode like back in the old PS2, PS3 days, it just doesn't hit as much now because you can tell that it's just not optimized, it's not as good,
right?
So people don't jump into it, or vice versa.
It's just so hard in VR with so few people. If your game's not free and it's multiplayer only, like you gotta have a good game.
Some of my favorite games have dead multiplayer, and I can only play them with my friends. There's a game called Local Dojo that I swear by. Yeah. I love it because I play Mario Party, and Mario Party is one of my favorite games from back in the day. Did not find an audience, and it sucks. I put a lot of time into that game. I can only play it now if I have friends. If I have 3 friends who are ready to play it, and VR is littered with dead multiplayer games, littered with them. Because a lot of people were kind of trying to capitalize on, oh, well, everyone's playing multiplayer. I'll just put the multiplayer game out. Not realizing the game actually has to be good. So
it has to be good. But then obviously that's where your job comes in as a community manager, is that you got to get people to know about it and get hyped about it. You say something like Breaches that has been massively successful and it's a paid app and such, right? That got a lot of good community management behind it, a lot of good marketing behind it, and it was a great game, and it still is, and they continue putting updates out. So that's a great example of something that's actually done really well because of, they knew exactly what they wanted and they stuck with their vision and they produced something fairly polished, right? With when it came out, and they're continuing to put content out. But then you got a lot of the games where it's like, we have a tennis game, which is great. It has multiplayer, but then no one's even in it. So then when you try and join a lobby or something, there's no one in it. Even Synth Riders, like they try so much and they do stuff on the weekends, like events and such, which is great. But during the week, it's you go to the Synth Riders lobby and there might just be one other person or something like that created a lobby. So
you can do you can do private lobbies on it. I know that's how Rough Talk does it when they play.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, to use Breaches as to follow up on your Breaches example, like everything that they did marketing wise was to get people to play the game one time because they had enough confidence. And that's it changed how I thought about the stuff I'm doing. Is if I get you to play Space Dragon one time, I'm pretty confident you're going to like it. I'm like 99% sure that you're going to enjoy it unless you just only care about multiplayer. Other than that, like it's just a fun game. Come back to Breachers. Breachers is a very exceptionally well-made game. Even they just had a new map and everything. Even though it was like a limited play loop, they only had the one map at the time and all that. The first time you play that game, there's an adrenaline rush, and like it very quickly can get you addicted to the game. So all their community was built around get people to play the game one time, get them in the headset, play it one time, and then our job is done, and then they'll just do the job for us.
Yeah.
And they did that massively. They did a really good job with that.
They got a good loop.
I mean, Samson, you're in it every single Friday now, right?
Yeah,
every single Friday, which is
the new map's very fun. It's really close quarters. I really like it.
Yeah, nice. Kind of go away from the work you put in VR, Mike. What are some of the favorite VR games that you play?
Oh boy. So like I said, I'm a single player guy. So my favorite VR game, even though it's not the best VR game ever made, my favorite VR game is Asgard's Wrath. Because that's the closest approximation to something I grew up playing.
Yeah.
Big, massive world, lots of companions, lots of leveling and upgrading. Again, I grew up playing Final Fantasy games and Dragon Warrior, Metroid, Ninja Gaiden, like all these single player games that were just like big, long campaigns with big boss fights. Asgard's Wrath ticked all of those boxes for me. I can't wait for the sequel.
Yeah.
Let's see. What else? Walkabout gets the majority of my time now. If I can't think of something to play, Walkabout is what I'll boot up. And I'll just go hunt for some missing balls. Or I'll play 9 holes of a course, something I can do in like 20 minutes and then get back out.
Yeah.
Demio's heavy in my rotation right now. But frankly, I don't have a lot of downtime.
Do you play Demio with a group, or do you play with one other person or solo?
Both. Or all three.
Okay.
All three. I've done all three. And I enjoy the game. I was never a TTRPG guy before I played Demio. And once I understood it better, I fell in love with it. So now I play that quite a bit. But frankly, I don't have a lot of downtimes because a lot of time I've spent in betas or testing or getting ready for stream or I'm playing a game that I'm going to review for YouTube. So I keep some games separate as I'm going to play this for my own enjoyment.
Yeah.
And then I'd say probably 25% of the games I'll play just for my own enjoyment and I never talk about them. And the other 75% is done for content.
Yeah.
What do you like? How do you pick a game to stream? And is it a particular type that you prefer to stream or don't want to stream?
That's an ever evolving process. I've now learned I don't want to do puzzle games on stream because you can feel the air sucked out of the room when you were stuck in one place for an hour and you don't know what the hell you're supposed to do. That is awful. Like I played Firmament off stream. It took me about 15 hours to beat it. There's no chance I would have played that on stream because half those 15 hours are spent going, not sure what to do here.
It's tough too,
and then eventually you figure it out.
It's not like a puzzle game on the flat screen where everyone can see exactly what you're seeing. Like when you're in VR, it really depends on what you're looking around. You're seeing different things and interacting with different things, right? With a flat one, everyone can see your screen. They were like, "Oh, try this, try that," right? But it's a little difficult in VR, and plus obviously the chat as well.
Exactly. So to Samson's point, I try to play something that's got a bit of pace to it, that's going to continually throw new things at me and give you something visually to look at. That's not that one corner with that one lock that I can't figure out how to open. Like, I just don't. For me, like if I feel myself getting bored and then like anxiety kicks in, so I'm like, this is boring. People aren't really interested in this because I can't figure out this stupid lock for an hour. So I keep puzzle games to myself. All puzzle games are done off stream, except I Expect You to Die. I'll be playing that one next week.
Nice.
So that's the main thing is I try to play something that's got some element of action or adventure or something that's going to be visually stimulating to watch. So mostly action games.
Nice. Back to what you meant by Demio. Have you played it in mixed reality or just in standard?
I have. I wasn't a fan, honestly, because I don't think it really added anything to the game. And I have a whole discussion about mixed reality we can get to at some point. But no, it was just one of those. I think that one came about when people were just starting to discover that you could do things with pass-through and resolution, put it in, and it's just kind of there. The pass-through mixed reality on Blast On is much better because they stylized your environment and they made it like neon stripes and it looks really, really neat. Demio's literally just, here's your game board and now you can see your room.
Yeah. Have you tried it on Quest 2 or have you tried the Quest Pro?
I tried the Quest 2.
Have you tried the Quest Pro?
I I do not have a Quest Pro. Robin has one, and she had an iron grip on that thing for months, so none of us were allowed to use it. It was like a running joke in meetings. So like, hey, Rob, if I could borrow the Quest Pro, she's like, no, Mike. It became a joke. It was a lot of fun having it with that. But no, I just had a Quest 2 until 2-ish months from now when I get my Quest 3.
Nice.
And then I'll experience full color for the first time.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Before we get into the Quest 3 mixed reality, just a quick note on Quest 2. How was, because we had a podcast maybe, I think it was like 2 or 3 episodes ago now, where we kind of look back on this year of our Quest 2 journey. But overall, for the whole 3 years, like to maybe not go how long-winded, because I feel like we could have a whole episode just talking about this, but more like summarize what your whole experience was with the Quest 2. Like, what were some things that you were really happy with, some things that you were really hate and you're like wish you can change for the next iteration?
Quest 2 reignited my love for gaming because, again, I grew up playing single player. So when the whole of the industry, or most of the industry, shifted to multiplayer with like the birth of COD and things like that, and then now live service games, I had no interest in any of that. So I would still buy my single player games and sit down playing it by myself and play all the way through. But those games became less the emphasis on the business as, you know, games as a service and all that stuff rose. So I fell out of the game and I didn't really enjoy it other than playing like the occasional Metal Gear Solid game or the occasional Zelda game for the last 10 years. Yeah. And occasionally someone would tell me an RPG to pick up. I picked that up and I play it and that was it. Then I got into VR and that was a whole new medium for me. One, a whole new catalog of like something like 5,000 games I can play. And 2 was just presenting games in the new. There was, you know, you know already, like the physicality of it, the immersion factor of it. I was like, wow, like I loved gaming again because it was new and fresh and unique. So that's what Quest 2 did for me personally. I'm not here if I don't ever pick up that Quest 2 at GameStop.
For sure. For sure.
And, you know, the downsides are well documented. You know, it's underpowered and yada, yada, yada. But the amount of people that it's brought into the ecosystem can't be discounted. So obviously the pros outweigh the cons for sure. I am ready for new hardware, though.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I was about to say with the Quest 2 kind of, I mean, I always still liked gaming, but kind of when it came to like PS4 era, I kind of fell off it a little bit. I think that just happens to everyone, right? It was they just grow older, other things happen in life and such, and it kind of falls down. And I think the same. And I'm Samson. I'm pretty sure you're the same. Kind of the Quest 2 kind of just like pushed that back in, like something brand new, a new experience, and it's so easy. I mean, I guess Samson, were you for Quest 1, right? Because you got the Quest 1.
Yeah, I got the Quest 1. Yeah, my gaming had been pretty limited probably at that point to a lot of FIFA
Nice.
and of some couch co-op. That's probably what I was doing before I got into VR. Yeah, you know, in the not Walking Dead, Red Dead Redemption, things like this.
Yeah, some of the big titles. Yeah, so obviously Quest 2. It's crazy how it's been 3 years because it has changed quite a lot, you know. Like when we were going through some of the updates on a couple episodes ago, we realized that 90 hertz wasn't a thing at the start and such. That was a couple months in and such. We only had a few games at the start, like Walking Dead, Saints and Sinners, Population 1.
The hand tracking
was like pretty bogus.
They've added so much
until now. Now it's fantastic and well done. But as we move to the Quest 3, I mean, people already know what me and Samson's thoughts are and why we're excited. But why? I know you're getting day one. Obviously, you're a content creator. But as like removing that side of things, like what makes you really excited about the Quest 3 and the new hardware?
Okay, so I saw the limitations of what Quest 2 could do pretty early on, and I knew I was going to need a PC to get, you know, because I wanted to play some high fidelity games. And
what kind of PC you running?
Let's see. I have a 3070 in it. It's got 96 gigabytes of RAM. The motherboards, it's a mobile. It's a B5. It's a B550. It's not the strongest motherboard in the world, but it gets the job done. So pretty happy with it so far. And I didn't buy that until a year after I had my Quest. Like I was still playing. I had a wind-up box for a PC that I streamed from. It could not stream PCVR at all because it had a 1050 in it. So I could play PCVR on the lowest possible settings. That's how I played Alex. I played Alex on very low, and I haven't played
I was playing on a laptop 1060 And then I signed up for Shadow PC, and I would stream. So I was Shadow PCing and then air linking to, so it was like double streaming.
Oof.
And that was my first PC VRs. Yeah.
I don't know how you didn't get sick doing that. So to skip ahead to the Quest 3, I'm excited that chip, while the chip's not going to be PCVR level, it's still going to bridge the gap between what the Quest 2, what mobile VR is and what PCVR is. It's not going to get all the way there because a chip that's like this big is not going to equal a 3070 that's like this big, or a 4090 or whatever. So that's not going to happen. And I spent a lot of time in a lot of videos dispelling that. But it's going to be another generation forward. And I think every headset's going to, one, bridge the gap between the higher fidelity stuff and what mobile can do. And it's going, excuse me. And then there's the mixed reality part of it too, that now basically is becoming the thing. Whereas 2 years ago, nobody cared about that. And now there's this whole new avenue to explore that I'm more excited for what mixed reality looks like in like a year than what it's going to look like when Quest 3 launches. Because developers are going to need time to like play with it and try different things and experiment and make the best possible games. I think the best mixed reality stuff we won't see until 2024, 2025, when everyone's gone through their first game. And while their first game might be good, 3 Pounds making one right now called Grokkit. And I can talk more about Grokkit in a second.
How do you spell that?
Grokkit.
Oh, okay. That was not what I thought. I thought you said rocket.
Yeah.
Me neither.
No. No, it's a multiplayer, Samson. I'll talk to you about that later. It's a multiplayer micro game. So think something along the lines of WarioWare, where you're going to play a bunch of different games in like 10 to 15 second loops. And because we're we're making your hands into paws, we're making your hands into sharks, we're making your hands into lasers, making your hands into vacuums to like suck up dynamite. Like we're transforming your hands every single time. Go to our social media at 3 Pound Games, 3LB Games on everything. You'll see clips of Grokkit all over the place. But I think you could play it in VR and in mixed reality too. So if you don't want to see your dirty ass room, you don't have to see that. We have virtual environments in there as well. But no, I think because now it's kind of like a new toy for VR for developers to kind of play with. So the first run of games, those are going to be fun, but a lot of them are going to be like VR, MR hybrid, where you're going to see mixed reality and virtual reality on both. And I think it's going to be a while before someone just goes full bore and says, this is only a mixed reality game and tries to do something transformative. So I think everyone's first game, is a learning experience. And while some of them might be very, 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 very good, their second games are usually better. The second generation of most things is always going to be better than the first generation. So the second wave of mixed reality is what I'm really excited for on Quest 3. And pancake lenses.
Yeah.
Pancake lenses.
Have
you tried the Quest Pro at all? Have you tried it before?
I have tried it for about 10 minutes. A friend of mine owns one. And I was there. This is actually how I tried PSVR 2 for the first time. I spent an entire day down in his man cave. And he owns all these other headsets. He owns, I think, like 10 headsets. So I spent a whole day in his man cave. I played PSVR 2 the entire day. And I tried this Quest Pro for like 10 minutes. But he didn't have a lot of Quest games because he was a Sony guy. He had a PSVR 1, then a 2, and he owns a bunch of Vive headsets. So he didn't have a lot of standalone to play. So I played Beat Saber for like 5 minutes. The controllers are amazing, by the way.
I love them.
But beyond that, I didn't have a chance to like really dig into it because he didn't know.
I guess one of the things that you
for it.
I still have never tried the PSVR 2.
It's good. It's good.
I need to get in.
It's good. It has some. It needs some more stuff, but it's okay.
You never even use it.
That's the best description of it. That's the best description of it. It needs more, like, software wise.
It just needs some more. And when I know people say that I know there's been a whole discussion on Twitter and such, but I know people say there's like hundreds of games out for it now and all in development and such, and I'm like, that's great, but I think it needs more unique titles to its hardware and such. Something like when Horizon came.
Exclusives.
It had Horizon that came out, which I really enjoyed. Firewall's coming out. I think it's already out by the time this podcast comes out, actually. But it needs more of that, where it's like, why am I getting a PlayStation VR 2, and why the hardware for the Sense controllers and the vibration in the headset and such, like all these little bits they've added to it, this is a reason why I got the PSVR 2, and I'm waiting for more stuff like that. And obviously, it needs the PC VR ports too, as well. Like that needs those, like Vertigo 2 is coming, for example. If they can if they somehow strike a deal with Valve and can get Half-Life in there, that'd be freaking massive. That will sell units galore.
I wish it was Vertigo.
No, I don't think it will.
No,
I don't think it will.
How so?
No. Does the Half-Life franchise register with Sony fans?
Not really. To be fair, not really. There's more of a Microsoft Steam.
Exactly. So if your core audience are PlayStation 5 owners, is a Half-Life game going to resonate with them? In the same way where if you ported Returnal, that's a bigger sell. Because that's a franchise that Sony people are very familiar with. If you did an original Last of Us story just built for VR, that would do more than Alex would, because that's a port of a game that came out 3 years ago.
Yeah,
4 years ago.
Yeah, you might be right on that fact. It's just the only thing I'd challenge that is be like, there's a lot of people who have come from Microsoft and such who are now on Sony's platform just because of how popular it is now, and you know the big games. So it's like a lot of people have transitioned over. I still, I you're right though. I do think that if there was a big Last of Us IP kind of thing that they had in the game, or one of their big franchises, it would probably do better than Half-Life. But it'll be a big announcement.
Yeah, like I try to detach myself from being a VR fan and understand that Half-Life Alyx is the gold standard, and put myself in the shoes of someone who is not in the VR ecosystem at all, has never heard of Half-Life Alyx. Half-Life itself, as a franchise, hasn't had a new entry, like a major flat screen entry, in quite some time. So if you're in your 20s, that's not even on your radar.
Yeah.
So does Alyx really grab you at that point?
I even have a friend who is into PC gaming, has a Quest, doesn't play it ever. And has never played Half-Life Alyx. He's just not interested, I guess. Like he has the PC for it. He has everything there, and it's not even selling him on like using it. So
because of the friction points involved with getting someone into VR, there's multiple. I've been using the phrase friction a lot lately. It's everything from price to comfort to accessibility. Like it's why I don't think if Sony ever ported all their big games into VR, like if God of War Ragnarok went to PlayStation VR 2, I don't think that moves headsets as much as people think it would. Because if I can already play this game from my couch very comfortably, and I've already played this game because it came out a year ago, am I going to go drop $600 on an accessory to play the game again in a medium I'm not comfortable with that will most likely make me sick if I played that game? No. Yeah. No, that's why when people are saying Sony needs to bring all their big IP into VR, I'm like, that's not going to entice all these guys who already played all these games.
What if there was like a game like The Lab where you have all these like sort of short experiences on Steam, but they're all Sony IPs. So you have a little area where you're going like a God of War thing, or, you know, you're doing, I don't know all the Sony IPs, but you know, you understand what I'm saying. And it's sort of like, is it almost like an intro to VR, right? So when you're learning how to shoot a bow, you're learning how to use the menus and all this. I feel like that's what they need to use the IP for.
Yes,
for more than just the games too.
That's why I'm glad they did Call of the Mountain instead of trying to port Zero Dawn. Even though Call of the Mountain was a lot shorter, it was this is built and designed for virtual reality. It's basically their introductory game because it teaches you climbing mechanics. There's that boat right at the beginning of the game. That's very, very gentle and all that stuff. The combat is ranged to you just circle around your opponent like you're Z targeting like in Ocarina of Time. That's what that combat felt like when I played it. I'd rather them do that, like Samson just described. Take a character from God of War, take Freya or something like that, and stick her in their game and build it for VR. I think that because that's an original story, you're not gonna play it on flat screen. You're not cannibalizing that franchise by trying to port it to VR and giving players something that they've already played. You're giving them something new and something fresh. I think that works better than just port all your flat screens to VR. No, I don't think that's gonna connect as much.
Yeah.
So what I completely agree with you, Mike, in terms of I don't think they should go, okay, here's a God of War Ragnarok and you can play it all in VR now. I don't think that's gonna I think in the PSVR 1 era, they put a lot of their games which had PlayStation VR mode enabled or something. Like there's a version of this game in the game, like what Resident Evil has right now and what Gran Turismo has and such. And I think they sometimes work, because obviously Gran Turismo's worked for a lot of people who are in there, and Resident Evil definitely worked. That's my first ever PSVR 1 game that I fell in love with. For sure, it definitely works, but they're not like system sellers in particular. They're more like, oh, it's cool. I have a few flat screen games. They have a VR mode that I can try. It's like a kind of a demo disc kind of feel, and it's cool. And I feel like they should continue to do some of that. But the main thing is that they need built from the ground up experiences that take advantage of the PSVR 2 hardware fully. And whether or not that's IPs like Last of Us and such, that's fine. But it just needs to be their own thing rather than, oh, here you have Last of Us 2. There's now a VR mode if you update, and then you can play one scene and such.
No,
like
it's not enough.
Great, but like that's not what's going to sell systems.
How do I get my friends who have PlayStation 5s to get to like even think about spending $550 on a PSVR 2? And with that, like, how does Sony, and they don't even know about it really. They don't know any of the games. They don't know it exists. How does Sony need to do to get it in front of them?
So you asked two questions there. I'm gonna start with your friend. Put them in your Quest 2. VR has to be experienced to be appreciated. As much good as like we do here talking and all the stuff I do on YouTube and Twitch and dozens of other people do, VR is not a medium that can be, it's a tactile medium. It cannot be appreciated till you have the headset on. Right. It's changed how I talk about VR when I started getting that feedback of, I don't understand what you're actually doing. So I try to talk through everything that I'm doing and explain like how it's just a different sensation of gaming, but you don't really appreciate that till you put a headset on. So for your friends, literally get them in your headset and put them in the right games and then show them the PSVR 2 games that they could be playing. Because then it's okay, if you sold them on VR, now they're gonna be like, okay, but Sony fans are used to, look at what Sony fans have gotten in the last year and a half. They got God of War Ragnarok, they got Returnal, they got Last of Us, the remake, they got Last of Us 2. Like, think about the big stuff that they've gotten.
Even and Dead Space and Hogwarts.
Yeah, like think about the big games that Sony fans have gotten and then think about what's in VR. It's not gonna compare. So you have to sell it from a different angle of this is a different way of gaming, the same way that we were all sold on it. Because you're not going to sell them on this is a big game because the biggest VR game pales in comparison to what's on consoles. There's not a game I'm going to play this year that's going to equal Tears of the Kingdom. There's not. So you have to come at it from a different angle.
If they had like a game of Walkabout being played with celebrities or some sort of famous people as like a TV spot, right? So you, during a big NBA game or something, you have an ad that's these people like having fun playing Walkabout, and then boom, a play on PSVR 2. I feel like that could do, and then maybe you interview them, right? Maybe they talk about, whoa, that was cool, like playing mini golf with Tom Brady, whoever, I don't know, you know?
Right. I mean, well, they paid Ozzy Osbourne to slap one on. That didn't really like connect. So yeah,
they did. It was also very random.
Yeah, that was a weird choice. That was a weird choice to stick that in front of him. On the Sony end of it, like games are going to be king, and you know, just porting all your flat stuff isn't going to work. We all agree on that. So you're going to need a system seller. No one cared about the first Xbox, which was the most superior. The Xbox had the best hardware on the market at the time when that console launched. No one gave a shit until Halo. No one cared about it until the first Halo game at all. If you look at the best-selling console that's ever made, matter of fact, I'll ask that question. Do you guys know the best-selling console ever made? Ever.
Best-selling console? I would suspect now it's PS4, but PS2 was quite up there.
PS2
isn't like a PS2, yeah.
PS2 sold over 150 million units. Go through that library and look at what they got. Metal Gear Solid 2, Metal Gear Solid 3, banger after banger after banger after banger after banger. They got that game, that console probably had the best AAA lineup ever sold, and the results speak for itself. Nintendo can live off Mario and Zelda games for years and years and years and years and years because they're going to sell those high-end games. So it's a two-pronged attack. One, Sony needs to get people in the headset, and two, they got to give them something really, really, really compelling to play that's going to get them away from playing some of the absolute bangers that PlayStation 5 is putting out. They'll have to put out Spider-Man 2 later on this year. What's going to get you in the VR and away from that game?
Nothing.
PlayStation 2 did also, I feel like, have a lot of things in its favor in that the Dreamcast, it was clearly way past Dreamcast, right? As far as like advanced. No, it came out before Xbox, where everybody was like, can Microsoft do this really? And then what was the GameCube? And then real gamers aren't really, they were like, Nintendo? I don't know.
Where's that list?
Like Nintendo's got its core, right? But people who are,
but
anyway,
you have to think like Resident Evil 4 came out.
It did have a
Resident Evil 4 was in the PS2 era. That's considered one of the greatest games ever made. Shadow of the Colossus came out then. Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, Grand Theft Auto Vice City. Like they just kept putting out hit after hit after hit after hit.
That trilogy of GTA games was still the pinnacle. Like GTA 3, San Andreas, and Vice City, and they're 100%. Just still special. You know?
But so what were their real first parties, right? Because that's really what they need to do for the VR too.
Well, here's the interesting thing: PS2 didn't need it. Look at what all these third party guys put out.
That's what I mean. The VR2 doesn't have the third party.
I don't know what Sony puts out, because what you would call first person for Sony is most likely a studio they bought, like Guerrilla or Insomniac, who makes all the Spider-Man games. That's considered first party for Sony. I would love Insomniac Games to make another VR game, because most people don't know that before Insomniac was making Spider-Man games, they were making Stormland. They were making just absolute bangers. But Spider-Man sold millions and millions of copies. So are they going to pull one of their biggest in-house developers to go make a VR game for a little used peripheral compared to their main install base? No. And
Spider-Man I feel like eventually you get sick of making the same IP, though, right?
Spider-Man 2 is
not if it's selling. Not if it's selling.
No, Spider-Man 2 is going to absolutely destroy it this winter. Like the first one was a great game. Miles Morales was a great side-on game, and then this is just going to be head and shoulders like above, I feel. And with Venom in it as well. Come on.
I don't see Sony committing that. I think what's going to happen is, just like the Metal Gear Solid series with Konami just blew up, or the Resident Evil series with Capcom. I think there's going to be a third-party developer that makes a killer app, and that's what sells it. Because I don't see Sony doing it when it's not a revenue driver for them. It's a fun little side piece. It's not going to. No PSVR 2 game will ever sell at the level that Spider-Man 2 is going to sell later this year, or the God of War Ragnarok sold. Like, it's just not a revenue driver for them. So I have a hard time seeing it. So I think it's really going to depend on third-party support in the same way that like PCVR has lived.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I hope they push it more than that, but for sure.
I hope I'm wrong.
I just maybe it's also a price point for them. The entry level price point being more expensive than the actual PS5 itself, I believe, in US dollars. Is a big barrier of entry as well. There's lots of issues, but kind of going back to the Quest kind of feel. You said like one of your most excited ones is obviously mixed reality and such. What kind of experiences would you be like looking for? I've always said it on the podcast before. Like I can't wait to just sit down at my kitchen counter and play some chess in mixed reality or something like that, just while I drink my coffee. That's
I'm going to.
How about you?
So I'm going to speak existential for a second. Now I'll talk about like specifics. The appeal of VR is that you can be taken and transported to a completely other world. And most of the people who have friction with mixed reality are saying, I don't want to see my dirty room or my dirty living room when I'm playing a game. Yeah. And I think that's the wrong mindset. What mixed reality is going to do is it's going to take your dirty, disgusting looking room or whatever and transform it into something else. And then I think it's going to take a while for developers to like really kind of wrap their head around the different things that they can play with spatial anchors and all those things. That you can make a transformative experience that makes your actual environment look completely different and be a different way to play. Like I'm thinking about like I could make my house into a haunted house and put someone in my headset and just have them just walk through my house and be jump scared to absolute death in the same way that something like Affected the Manor did. But think about the level of creation and creativity that you can get away with that. That's what I'm excited for, because it's going to be something.
That would be cool. That would be cool. Just giving people all the assets of like a haunted house, and then be like, build your haunted house in your house, and then share it with
people who come over. That's gonna absolutely kill me.
Yeah.
It would limit it, right? Because you're limited to. I have to have people come over and like try it. But yeah, it would be very cool.
Yeah, so that was like a crude example, but I think like the possibilities for what you can do, just like you could do in VR, you could do anything. But the mixed reality, you have to think in terms of, okay, how can I use this person's wall or this person's desk or whatever to make like a transformative experience? So imagine if you're like, think about what Resident Evil game had the lickers in it? Was that 2? The ones that would like sit on the walls and just had these gigantically long tongues and try to swipe at you. I think that was 2.
That's 2. Yeah, I think it was 2.
Yeah. I'm thinking about
3.
you playing the shooter. Yeah, so I'm thinking about you playing a shooter, but the creature that's attacking you can bounce off every single piece of furniture in your house and hide under your desk and get up behind your couch and bounce off your ceiling and stuff like that. That's not something you can really you can do that using special anchors and just make it something really, really special using your home environment. Like I think that's what I'm excited for, is being able to do different things.
Yeah.
And couch co-op is kind of gone by the wayside. We all grew up, playing games at our buddies' houses and playing Mario Kart and all that. Mixed reality can bring that back, because then at that point you can transport your friends and their avatars into your house and kind of recreate that feel. It might be more significant to people like us because we're a little bit older, but mixed reality can bring that to the table.
That's where I see it for like Demio, right? Where you're actually sitting around you're having a board game night, just augmented, and you don't have to clean up the pieces at the end, right?
Yeah. I think that's going to be the power of that. And, like I said, it's going to take some time as experimentation to kind of get to that point. But I think that's the potential where that can go. It's completely separate from VR, and I don't think it's going to overtake what VR does. They're two completely different things, and I'm looking at them differently.
Yeah. Do you think that could be an issue for Meta, being two completely different things and they're shipping a headset that's not really focused on one of them? Or do you think that right now, because mixed reality is so new, VR is so new, that probably the best mixed reality headsets and the ones that people are going to use are through VR anyway? So right now it's probably fine. And one day maybe they just do mixed reality as a standalone, potentially.
I think we're going to do it now when everything's still in its infancy. As opposed to if VR had blown up, mixed reality never becomes a thing, because then, there's hundreds of millions of people playing VR.
Sure.
Why are you going to try to pivot to this other thing? If you're going to do that, do it now. Mixed reality has a lot less friction because a lot of people aren't comfortable not being able to see their own environment around them. I'm sure we've all done VR demos, and you'll get that one person who's like, I don't, this doesn't feel good. This doesn't feel good. And 2, Meta's 50 million things already. Like, look at all the other companies that they own, all the other things they're dabbling in, all the R&D that they do.
True.
It's not like they're solely a virtual reality gaming company right now. That might be their main line that they're publicly putting out there. But they're doing work in AR, they're doing work in mixed reality glasses. They still have all their legacy social media sites like Instagram and Facebook and all those things. Now Threads that they're focusing on. They already had their hands in a lot of pies anyway. So it doesn't bother me that they're going to be, here's another thing they're going to kind of dabble in.
Nice.
And frankly, they're putting more money into it than any other company. So
nice. Yeah,
like,
that is true. They are the ones,
at least for consumers.
They're subsidizing it big time and such. Actually, a couple more things I wanted to ask, just to kind of come towards the end of the podcast here. One, because we've kind of had this discussion, me and Samson already, but like, with the Quest 2, obviously with the Quest 2, a lot of people have bought a lot of accessories and such for it, right? Whether they bought hand grips or docks or
me too.
VR covers and all that stuff. Any accessories that you will be for sure buying again for the Quest 3 that you loved for the Quest 2?
A strap. A strap, 100%. I cannot do the elastic. I think the Quest 2 out of the box is unwearable. Like, that strap is so bad.
It blows my mind that people play with the thing stock.
I know multiple people still do it,
Me too.
No, a strap for sure. A strap and controller grips are really all I need. I don't really need a charging dock. The plugs work just fine. The controllers are going to still be a single AA battery. I'm really happy about that because the Quest 2 batteries get a stupid amount of battery life out of one damn battery. It's fantastic.
What about the interface? Are you a pleather or like the silicone guy?
Silicone.
Okay.
Silicone. I don't sweat a whole lot, and I'm very good about keeping my area like place space ventilated, and I stay hydrated. So I don't really worry about like the ventilation part of it. I don't have one of those fans on top. I bought one of those from Bobo. I didn't like it, and I got rid of it.
Fair enough.
But no, a strap for sure. That's like day one. And then past that, I don't do enough shooters to own a gun stock or any of that stuff. So
fair enough.
The strap's the main one.
Do you rock a Bobo strap right now? Is that what you?
Yep, Bobo M2.
Bobo M2. Nice.
I don't like that's the one with the things up top, right? Where they those things dig into my head and they give me a headache after about an hour of use, for sure.
I bought an M1 and an M2, and I like this one better because I have a very wide, my mom calls it a bowling ball head. So like the top strap just would shift on either side of it.
Yeah.
And then I'll get, like it's because it didn't sit directly on top when I had mine, like it would shift to like one side and then that like adjust and shift to the other side. It wasn't comfortable. So I have obviously a large 5 head here. So I've got all this forehead real estate. So I'd rather get the Halo strap.
Right. To each your own, because I love the top strap and I hated those things pushing into my head.
Okay, really?
Yeah, my kid hated this one. So when she got hers, I bought her a top strap one because she's more comfortable with that.
It's really not a one stop fits all like or anything like that, right? It is like customized to you. Like you got to find out. Some people don't like the Halo strap. That's why a lot of people didn't like the Quest Pro's comfortability. They thought the comfort level. They thought it hurt their head and such, and it kind of did if you didn't wear it in a certain spec. But then for some people, no matter how you'd wear it, it's gonna hurt your head. And then for some people, it's like actually this is pretty nice. I kind of like how I'm wearing it and such. And that was more like my experience. No, I did have one for 3 months. I kept it all the way up to the return policy because I was always gonna. I was like, I just want to try this out, and I loved it. I loved it. I love the controllers. I love the dock. For me, I always have my Quest 2 in its carrying case. I have like the official carrying case, and it's in my wardrobe behind me and such. But with the Quest Pro, it just sat on my desk and it was sleek and everything was charged and ready to go. And because it was just sat on my desk on the dock, it made me want to just pick it up. Like if I had a spare 15 minutes, I'll just pick it up. And because it fits on your head so quickly as well. And because also this is something that I'm going to miss that the Quest 3 won't have, but because it was open-ended, I actually came to really like that. Because you had so much more ventilation into your eyes and your eyes didn't feel tired or anything like that. And no, I loved when I had it. It wasn't worth the price by any stretch of the imagination. And it was more to do with the software problem, is that the software was the exact same with the Quest 2 and it just didn't run that. It wasn't really optimized. Like it had a lot of issues and a lot of bugs. And like when you're spending $1,500 US on a device like that, it should work much better. Like when Apple comes out with their $4,000 device, or how much it was, I can't remember. That is, that's kind of going to work pretty much straight out of the box, and that's what Meta's Quest Pro should have done. And I think that's one of many issues, which is why it didn't do as well. But ignoring the price, I really liked it, and that's why I'm really excited for Quest 3 because I think that is going to be better than Quest Pro in terms of the mixed reality stuff and everything apart from facial tracking pretty much. So I'm excited for it big time.
Yeah, the depth sensor that they took out of Quest Pro was, I think, probably their biggest regret.
Big time. Like when I remember playing Demio in mixed reality, and I really like Demio in mixed reality because once you set it up, it's with the depth sensors gone, you had to set up where your desk is, where the walls are and such. It was such a pain. Like you just couldn't be bothered to do it. But when like you throw dice on your table and it falls off the table, it actually falls off in mixed reality. And I was like, this is great. The dice doesn't float there in mid space. It actually falls off. It has like physics and such. Like this is actually really, really cool. But having that depth center for the Quest 2, it's just going to work immediately, right? It's going to scan your room. You're good to go. And yeah, I'm really excited for it. Buzzing for it for sure. For sure.
I am too. I basically built my whole YouTube channel around it, so it better be good. It better be good on toast.
The final thing I was going to ask is that you had some PolyArc news that you wanted to share.
Oh, okay. So this is going to air after PolyArc's showcase for Glassbreakers Champions and Moss. So I can talk about it now. Nice. If you are into, let me start over. I think that there are a lot of genres in VR that are kind of underrepresented. That's why that's why I think Demio did really well, because there aren't any TTRPGs on Quest. And even though it was the most scaled down version of a TTRPG you could ever play, it's not going to be something on the level of, like some other games out there that are on flat screen. It definitely cornered the market because it was something unique in that space. I think Glassbreakers is going to do that for MOBAs, because I can't name another MOBA in VR. Now, having played it, and
I can't even understand how it would work.
Right. Like think about trying to translate. I mean, there would be a top down, something similar to, and Polyarc's the great company to do this because they just made Moss. They made 2 Moss games. So they're used to that 3/4 overhead or whatever look, and using that camera system. It's much like Demio. It's very, very stripped down. So if you're a big League fan, like, and you're used to like, manipulate different lanes and all the other different things you can do to like get advantage of your opponent, you're not going to get that level of experience because it's much less complicated than that, but it's fun. The games are maybe 10 minutes long. There are some strategic elements to it. There are some microtransactions in it. But it's gonna be one of those games, I think, like Demio, that they
Does that mean it's free?
I don't know. I don't believe it's gonna be free now. Again, we're recording this before that showcase, so I don't know.
We might already know.
The price at that point.
We might already know that.
Yeah, we might already know by the time this airs, but I don't know if it's gonna be free or not. But it's one of those games that's going to be, quick loop, a quick gameplay loop. Like I said, games take 10 minutes, 12 minutes if you go into overtime, roughly around that time, because it only takes 2 minutes to finish the overtime period. And I think it's going to be fun for a lot of people. And it's a good introductory MOBA, and I think they can build something bigger down the line. People who are big Leagues fans are not going to like it because it's very, very simple. Mm-hmm. But I spent hours in it at this point. I'm really enjoying it.
That's good. Oh, I'm excited. I know we were recording this before, but now I'm very excited to see it because as this will air, I would have already seen it. But that sounds.
Mike, that was a thing with some of my flat gamers that I can't get into VR is the depth of games. They're just so used to flat games having so much to do, so many options.
Ask them if they're willing to stand on their feet for 200 hours to play a game.
Well, that's also it. They don't want to. They also don't want to play standing. Yeah.
So I think you would probably put them in some stuff that you can't do on flat screen. Stick them in Blade and Sorcery, even though I don't like that game. Stick them in some stuff that they cannot do on flat at all, which is why Beat Saber is such a very easy selling point for VR.
Mm-hmm. I feel like I need something where they're being lazy. That's what I like. They want to be lazy, so I need to sell them on lazy VR.
I mean, I Expect You to Die is probably a good one in a way. I mean, it's a puzzle game, but it is a good seated experience, that you can't really get in flat screen.
You need something uniquely VR that they cannot get on flat screen, and that will deter them from, well, this game isn't 60 hours long. They're not really. I don't think VR games are meant to be 60 hours long. I don't, because of the friction involved in actually playing one, and no one wants to stay on their feet for 60 hours. Like when Baldur's Gate 3 came out, there were people who spent, 20 hours the first weekend just playing that game. There will never be a VR game like that you can spend that amount of time because you have physical limitations. So the way you sell your friends is not get them on, well, this is just like this flat game in VR, because they're going to reject that 10 times out of 10. It's just get them into the unique VR stuff that they can't do on flat, and that's how you sell them. That's how I sold every single person I know that's bought the Quest after doing a demo with me.
I mean, for me personally, I always thought Demio was a little bit too long too, because first of all, it didn't withstand the battery life unless you had like a spare battery pack, which was definitely an issue.
I agree.
But I always thought that was a bit of a too long experience when it first came out. Now it's a little bit different, you can obviously save it as well and such, so it's a little bit different now. But when it first came out, it was like full 3 hours and like playing Demio full campaign. I'm like knackered.
I think if you're better at it, it can go faster.
Yeah. I think
I can clear an entire book in about 2 hours.
Yeah, so that's good. But the first person and such, right? That's going to take them 3 hours and such. But but Mike, it's been fun. It's been fun to have you.
Yeah, this has been great.
I feel like we could still talk for a while, but we have a live episode to film soon. So I really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, congrats on the 100.
Thanks. You'll be 101.
Yeah.
101. So you'll be the first of the hundreds.
It feels weird knowing that this is going to air 10 days after we talked about all this. So talking around the Polyarc stuff and talking around episode 100 and all that. No, this was a blast. This was my first third person interview. So hopefully I didn't stutter too much.
No, you were great. I'm sure everyone enjoyed it. And before,
do you want to plug things?
I was about to say that.
I beat you to the punch.
Sorry, say again.
I was about to say, do you want to plug anything? Like you plug your Twitch and such? Where can people find you?
Yeah, I'm LiveOpenMike on everything. So LiveOpenMike on YouTube. That's pretty heavily Quest 3 focused now, and it's not going to be, hey, here's 20 minutes of gameplay with me just talking over it. Here's that video. there's tons of videos or tons of channels doing that. No, there's going to be setup guides, tips and tricks. I'm going to drill deep on like 4 or 5 games that I'm really deeply interested in and make multiple videos about them. Glass Breakers will get a ton of videos. Asgard's Wrath 2 will get a ton of videos. And then on Twitch is just my playground. Samson's been there. It's just me goofing off playing the VR game. It's a lot of fun. On all those are LiveOpenMike, and then Twitter, or X as it's now called, it's my main social platform.
On Twitch, do you have like a standard streaming time and a day, or do you just stream whenever?
Tuesdays and Thursday nights, 6:00 Eastern. I cut it. I was doing 3 days for a while, and then when I started going harder on YouTube, I pulled a day back to free up some time for that. So that's all LiveOpenMike stuff. For 3 Pound Games, it's 3LB Games on, again, all the platforms on YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, X, all those guys. And you can find all our stuff there on 3poundgames.com.
Perfect. Mike, thank you so much. I hope everyone...
Thank you.
Yeah, I hope everyone listening and watching had a good time. Go check out all of Mike's stuff. I will put that in the description.
He's got a merch store too.
And if you're on the video podcast, you can see Samson rocking the merch for LiveOpenMike. Yeah. But no, I appreciate it. It was a good.
It's not just my logo either. I have like
he's got some potato stuff or something.
There's a potato VR gamer shirt. There's one that says VR calling. It looks like a cell phone screen. I want to make fun shirts that aren't just like, here's my logo, wear it.
That's our stuff basically. It's our logo.
Yeah. I like the logo.
It's a big logo, guy. No, appreciate it. Thanks everyone for listening. Thanks for everyone watching. We will come back next Thursday for our regular scheduling program, I'll say. But yeah, Mike, thank you so much, and all the best to you. And hopefully we can have you on later on down the road when the Quest 3 is in full effect.